It's 9 o'clock, and I'd like to call this Senate Veterans and Military Affairs Committee meeting to order. We got several bills to take up. I'd like to inform those that are on Zoom, away from the office, the committee chamber, that to speak into your microphones to address any questions. I'd also like to recognize we have former Senator Stacy Pickering, who is over our Veteran Affairs. He'll be addressing us on several of these bills. The first bill we have to call up is Senate Bill 2165. This bill is an act to amend Section 35-321, revise certain qualifications and requirements for veterans, service officers, and to require counties to provide necessary office space and connectivity and for related purposes. This bill, if y'all go to line 28, is just a little clarification as far as the service officer. Now it reads, the county veteran service officer shall be honorably discharged or honorably released veteran, and we struck out of any war or police action. If you move down to line 36, we've done a little more clerical as far as this kind of goes toward federal guidelines, to where they will have to attend just one annual training program, and that will be administered by the State Veterans Affairs Board. And on line 41, it's actually stating the CFR of the federal guidelines. Most of this is already in place around the state. This is just bringing forth some clarification and making sure the counties are providing what is needed for the veterans. Line 55, the county has to provide office space. 55, 60, okay. Yeah, that also is your board of supervisors shall provide various direct or indirect necessities for office space, communications, connectivity for the service officer. Are there any questions? Senator Delano.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do you know approximately how many counties do not provide the office space now for the service officers?
I'm going to allow our directors, Stacy Pickering, to give us a little more technical numbers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. About a dozen of our counties in Mississippi provide no office space or connectivity, and in today's world, electronic filings, uploading, we're past the point of fax machines. And so we've actually got one VSO in the Delta who meets veterans at the Waffle House or the Hardee's in town to do their work, and you're dealing with PPE, or not PPE, but personal identification information, PPI, that we need to be able to ensure we protect, and that does not need to happen outside and be kept in somebody's trunk. There needs to be an office space with proper filing as well as connectivity as far as the internet in today's world, and this just tells the counties if you're going to hire somebody even one day a week, you have to provide them connectivity to do their job.
Okay, so a follow-up question to that would be, of the offices that you currently have at the courthouse, are you paying any kind of fee whatsoever for that VSO being there?
These are county employees, not state employees. So the counties hire them, these are their employees, and we're asking them to provide their own employees, staff. We do provide software connectivity for them and laptops if they're working 2/3 of the week. If they are certified and trained, we put them on our software system and they don't have to pay the licensing fee.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And Stacy, also, isn't it an availability to these counties to do it jointly with
They're very much, well, there's two or three ways they can hire a county VSO. Most counties will hire them individually, 1 or 2 days a week. There's only about half a dozen counties statewide that have full-time veteran service officers. Harrison County, Jones County, Lamar, Lee County, Pontotoc. DeSoto does not even have a full-time person. We provide theirs up there in Memphis, and then DeSoto in North Mississippi. They can provide them between counties. That way you get a better person, but we have a veteran service officer on every college campus in Mississippi. Alcorn will be our last college campus this year. We've already hired the person, so once we get past COVID and they allow us to get on campus, we'll have every four-year school covered in Mississippi with a full-time. That gives a state veteran service officer within 50 miles of every veteran in the state of Mississippi.
Mr. Chairman, I have a motion at the proper time.
State your motion.
Motion to be titled sufficient due pass.
We have a motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Bill moves forward. Next up, we have Bill 2293. This is an act to provide that any claim and action under the provision of consumer protection laws filed on behalf of a veteran for a fee must include certain acknowledgments that the Mississippi State Veterans Affairs Board offers the same service free of charge and for related purposes. Stacy, you want to give a little input on
Yeah,
that?
Mr. Chairman, we are having a problem in some of our more rural counties with groups that are predatorily preying on our veterans. They're charging them a 10, even 20% fee on their benefits for X number of years. They are advertising, show up at a Hampton Inn or some other venue, and the veteran or the widow or the wife shows up looking for benefits. These different groups will file the same thing that we do free of charge. And all we're asking is, we're not asking them to stop because it's that veteran and their family's choice of who they use to file their claim, but they need to be disclosed that the state of Mississippi provides that same or similar service free of charge. This just requires that so we can start addressing some of the predatory practices. This is especially true in the Mississippi Delta.
Question, Mr. Chairman. Stacy, do you think that there needs to be some language in here regarding the size of font and or whether it needs to be bolded?
I would definitely, anything to make it better and stronger, we'd be see that as a friendly amendment.
This seems like this would be something that would slide in under little small fine print down at the bottom whereas in the body of the material that they're handing out, it would
Totally
be of
agree with
size
you.
and font that would be said. Mr. Chairman, would you entertain a conceptual amendment to ensure that the print that is provided for the recipient to sign is of a font and a bold font that is 120% of the font on the rest of the paper?
Just a second. You got it? Yes.
Okay. Well, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to go ahead and make that amendment. Bob, you need anything else for with respect to the conceptual? 20%. 120% of the text that's on the balance of the page.
Do I hear a motion?
Yeah, I made the motion.
Do I hear any other questions?
I have a question.
Senator McMahon?
I have the question on the amendment. Senator Delano, would you consider it a friendly gesture if we were to underline that text as well?
I think that would be an excellent amendment to my amendment.
That's my substitute motion, that we accept Senator Delano's amendment, but also add that the font shall be underlined.
Any other discussion?
Adoption of the amendment.
With motion for adoption of the amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
A motion to adopt committee sub?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to do pass committee sub.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask the director a question?
You may.
Director Pickering, you may not want to state for the record, but I'm interested would you state for the record some of the groups that may be preying upon our veterans?
There are smaller organizations and tend to be either social workers or attorneys that are kind of freelancing on their own. It's not an organized, it's not a national group that's coming in. These tend to be local groups or individuals who, there are some regional organizations that do come in, advertise in the paper, ask veterans and their family members to show up at it, like I mentioned earlier. I saw that up earlier in Grenada, Greenville, and Greenwood, where they were hitting the Hampton Inns on a Saturday morning, and again, they weren't having the full information that the state provides this service. We already represent over 90% of all veterans before the VA Benefits Office. On behalf of the American Legion, the VFW, Red Cross, and the Navy League, we are there, and the state of Mississippi's authorized veteran service officers. These individuals are operating freelance and are doing it for a fee. And many times we have to take the case over and fix it later on, 2 or 3 years later.
It's difficult for me to conceal my anger and rage toward these groups that would take advantage of our brave men and women that have proudly served this nation and state. So,
well, this is a first step. I think there may probably be follow-up legislation in subsequent years if we can't get this under control. Oklahoma has already done so in a couple of other states, so we'll be glad to have that conversation. But this is a first step to address this kind of predatory practice.
I certainly don't want to interfere with anyone's right to counsel, to legal counsel in this nation, but I certainly don't want anyone preying upon these brave men and women as well. Thank you, Director. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the question.
Now we go to measure number 2294. This is an act to amend Section 63-135 Mississippi Code. It authorizes a veteran to establish proof of military service for veterans' driver's license designation in person at the Department of Public Safety driver's license station and for related purposes. Basically, you go all the way to line 48, and it's just adding in the language, and the veteran requesting the vet designation may present his DD-214 or equivalent document in person at the Mississippi Department of Public Safety's driver's license station. In the realm of COVID and trying to keep from having a redundancy of service with, if they've got their documentation, they will not have to go to Stacy and Veterans Affairs to bring forth documentation that they already have in person. That's all this bill is actually doing. I have addressed it with Stacy and the board. They have no problem with it. Are there any questions?
I have a motion, Mr. Chairman. Title sufficient, do pass.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next is measure 2499, an act to amend section 4975, 4915, 313. To authorize veterans who are 50% service-connected disabled or more to obtain a free combination hunting and fishing license and free saltwater sports fishing license and for related purposes. This bill we brought up in 2017 and passed out of the Senate and also the House, but there was some technical language to be where it went to conference, and the language changed dramatically from what the intent of the bill is. I have been, all chairmen were sent a notice as far as anything that's going to have a dollar value that we're going to have to present a physical note. I am in the process of bringing that forward. I have received the numbers from Stacy's office as far as the percent of veterans that are 50 to 100%, which is around 10,300, and those that are 70% or more. around 7,000. What we did in that language that went to conference, it went from a 50% disability to an actual individual hunt, kind of like the Wounded Warriors type hunts, to where the veteran would only have one specific designated day to go hunting or fishing. So what this bill is actually doing is those that are 50% or more will have that benefit free.
I have a motion. Title sufficient, do pass, Mr. Chairman.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Passes. All right. Measure 2730, this is an act to amend sections 2733.3 and 2733.67 to clarify the homestead exemption for veterans based on 100% permanent and total service-connected disability and for related purposes. The language that was changed on line 92, it lists 100% permanent and total service-connected. The language, this is mainly clerical, but total disability. And we put in disability as an American veteran instead of veterans plural. So it's basically just a technical language change. Are there any questions? Senator Delano.
Mr. Chairman, you know, we had some conversations before the committee started about challenges that I've received complaints on down in Harrison County, where we've had veterans that have tried to provide the proper paperwork to the county clerks to receive their homesteaded exemptions, and then also on their, I think it also applies to the tag and title side of it as well. I don't have my notes here in front of me, but while Director Pickering is here, can I please direct a question to him, if you don't mind?
Most certainly may.
Director Pickering, I'm not trying to put you on spot. And by the way, I apologize for not formally. I'm just so used to connecting with you on
That's
a personal
fine, Mr.
level.
Chairman.
But I apologize for that. I had some conversations with your office, I think it was just last week, about this very issue and trying to help resolve some issues. As I understand it, there is one letter that DOR has recognized, and it's referred to as the CARTAG letter for disabled veterans.
Correct.
And that document to receive that document, a veteran must get a letter from the VA office somewhere, and apparently there's many different types of letters. It's not a uniform form, is that
Up until
correct?
2 years ago, it was a single, or 2 to 3 years ago, it was a single letter that came out of the VA benefits office on Woodrow Wilson for Mississippi veterans. And so it was a standard letter, and that's what the tax collectors were given and said, this letter. Part of the CARES Act, the federal act to modernize the federal VA and expedite it. Now, a lot of these hearings and appeals are happening at other VA benefits offices that has bandwidth, so that we don't have a backlog here in Mississippi. It could be coming out of Arizona, Colorado, Michigan. And so the letters will wind up, this one will be in color, this will be black and white, the head, the seal will be in different, they look different, and that has created a lot of the confusion. The other is the language. We've had some veterans who were put on disability, 100% disability, because they had cancer. Once the cancer is cured, they're through with their treatment, the VA moves them back to whatever, at 50 or 60% they may have been prior, because they're no longer 100% disabled. That's the reason we want to make sure the language is permanent and total. And, it is, this person will be 100% disabled the rest of their life. It doesn't change, and that way you don't have somebody who's temporary getting this benefit and then not entitled to it in 2 or 3 years. But we're working with Department of Revenue to get letters, sample letters out, but we're also looking at a database My counterpart in Florida, I've talked to you and I've mentioned, I've been in touch with Hammer down there, and we're talking through specifics of what we can do to modernize this for the county courthouses. It's just going to take us a little bit more time. But this would at least get us language, Department of Revenue's looking for 100% permanent and total. It doesn't matter what the letter looks like. They're looking for permanent and total, and if we can do that, that should help.
Okay, so the language change that we have on line 92 of this bill will then alleviate some of those pains that we've had down at the local level, and then also the stress that's in your office because you're having to produce these letters, or at least provide backup and verification, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chairman, I have a motion at the proper time.
State your
It
motion.
would be title sufficient, do pass.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Measure passes. Last one, Measure 2731. This is a measure to provide that counties and municipalities in this state are encouraged to cooperate with military installations to encroachment near military installations and facilitate the continued presence of major military installations in this state. To provide the counties and municipalities and military installations to which this act applies, to encourage the counties and municipalities to provide military installations with information relating to land use and development which should affect the use of land adjacent to or in close proximity to military installations and for related purposes. This has been a fairly sticky subject with some of the terminology, but we've got to move forward to preserve our military installations in the state. This is the first step forward without, stepping on the Constitution and your local government's right to govern. Hopefully in the future we will move forward with a little more legal language that will make everybody be able to come to the table with a transparent end goal in mind. Are there any questions? Senator Delano,
A motion at the proper time.
state your motion.
Motion would be title sufficient, do pass.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That measure passes. Do I hear a motion?
Who's the guy on TV? Who's the guy on the TV?
Your VFW.
Thank you for attending today. Appreciate it.